I always like to start with the scripture of the day. So our scripture today comes from Isaiah 43:2, and it states, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned, and the flames will not set you ablaze." Listen, God is with you in every season. Anything you're walking through, anything you're feeling, any sort of chaos, any circumstance, there's never a time. This scripture reminds us that there's never a time where God isn't with us. And you may go through the fire, but you won't be burned. And I know that is literally a metaphor, and it's something to ponder. Of course, if you stick your foot in fire, you're going to be burned. It's just talking about the ebbs and the flows of life, knowing that God has always our best interests at heart. He always sees the end from the beginning, and even though we can't, He has us literally in the palm of His hands on every side at all times. It's just always remember that. Always remember how much He loves you, how much He's for you. I believe on faith that He knows what we're going to go through, but He also is expecting us to get the lesson and to grow and evolve from those issues that we face. And moving on to our next part, which is my Artist Me Spotlight. I have an Artist Me Spotlight beautiful woman today to highlight. Oh yeah, and I am plugging my own collection, Artist Me, Artistry Created by God. Go to my website, IamAventerGray.com, and grab your sweater as the seasons change. It feels so good. I love it. Grab a t-shirt and more things coming. But for Artist Me today, it is Kiki Palmer. Can we give it up for Kiki in the comments? I love her so much. And guys, Kiki's real name is Lauren Kiana Palmer. Okay? I didn't know that. I had no clue that her name was Lauren, but Lauren Kiana Palmer. She was born August 26, 1993, better known as Kiki. She's an American actress, singer, and television personality. We know and love her from roles like Akila and The Bee, Barbershop 2, and also Madea's Family Reunion, and so much more. In 2014, she became the youngest person to have her own daytime television show, Just Kiki. And recently, she announced the launch of her very own television network, Key TV. Isn't that amazing? I want us to celebrate all things Kiki. Keep in touch with her, follow her all around. I want to know what's going on with you guys, and I want to tell you guys a little bit about me and my family. So recently, we've been taking in this beautiful fall weather. We've been so excited about getting out, my husband and I, with the kids. The kids had us all up in the pumpkin patch, child, picking pumpkins and learning about pumpkins, going through a corn maze. And then as recently as last weekend at the Skytop Apple Orchard, one of the most beautiful sights here in the Carolinas. The Skytop Apple Orchard is so fun. We did apple cannon. We went and picked all types of apples from the tree. We rode the wagon through the apple orchard. We just had such a beautiful time, and the weather is shifting, the weather is changing, and I love this time of the year, like right before Christmas comes in, just enjoying the turn of the color of the trees and the bushes, all the beautiful oranges, the reds that pop. Those mustard colored leaves I love so much. It's just been beautiful. And I encourage you to get out, get some fresh air with your family. Get out from behind your desk if you're working. Get out from in front of your screen. Kind of just take moments to retreat and connect back to your family. Take a picnic, take a hike. Walk instead of ride, get some exercise in, get some steps in, and just enjoy the beauty that God has afforded us. I'm so excited. But anyway, moving on from that, I just want to talk about seasons. Like, for me, I feel like I'm stepping into a different place right now from where I've been. And that's also embracing all facets of myself. I kind of get bogged down with focusing on the one thing instead of multiple things. And we've been taught to do that. You need to do, in order to do all things well, you need to focus in on one thing, maximize that, master that, move on to the next thing. But I feel like in this season, I want to make sure I'm embracing all that God has placed inside of me. I want to encourage you to do the same. You're not just one thing. You are more than one thing. You are multiple things, multi-layered. And I encourage you to explore and to just dig deep for how all of those things fit together in a beautiful puzzle that is you. And speaking of stepping in your season and being into your season, my guest today, Dr. Contessa Metcalf, is definitely in her season. She is blazing this pharmacovigilance lane, being a beautiful Black woman doctor on the hit show Married to Medicine. I'm so excited about her today. I'm so excited that she's going to be with us. I want you to know that she is not only a doctor, she is a wife. She's a mother of 3, a physician. She also, one of her specialties is pharmacovigilance. She is a physician for a major pharmaceutical company. She is the co-owner of Hot Doc Nutraceuticals, a supplier of high-quality vitamins and supplements and just art in every form. So I can't wait for you to hear this conversation with her today. Please help me welcome Dr. Contessa Metcalf to Unfiltered Season 2 today. Hey, sis. Feeling like family over there. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Just blocking some patients. So hopefully nobody will walk in on me. I told them we're busy. We're working in here. Okay.
We are. We're working.
How you doing?
And you know what? Our conversation today, I'm excited about. I am not practicing in the medical field anymore, but that is my background. Cardiopulmonary science is a degree I received from the amazing Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, FAMU. Yes. So I practiced up until 2009, and that is when my relationship started. I ran into my husband. I was dancing and teaching dance as well, and that was something that was super near and dear to me. And as we progressed forward, the lifestyle was not conducive, as far as the travel and us being young in marriage. We didn't have kids yet or anything. So the other part was it was kind of hard for me with the newborn babies, the ones that were 25 weekers, 28 weekers, that would be fighting. And when they would make it, there's a win. But when they wouldn't, I would carry that stuff home with me. It was very hard on me to lose people. Like if we could save them, great. But then the other and alternate, very real side of that was just very heartbreaking for me. So
I lost my first one. I don't know if you knew that.
No.
Yes. So the belief was, I was 23 weeks. So, it was interesting because I was in the hospital for a couple of days. We tried to save her. It was a little girl. And, we labored and she breathed for, she took a couple of breaths, but of course she was too young. And it was quite challenging because, women and men are very different in the way that they grieve. And that I was grieving, but I was also very angry about how could this happen? How could God do this to me? There was this question of whether or not I was capable of carrying a child to full term. So it's all these things that, insecurity I didn't even know I had came about. And then it was quite worse too, because of course people see you and last time they see you're pregnant, then you're gone for a couple, I was gone. And I was out on maternity leave, actually. And then when I came back, people were, they didn't know the story. So they would ask, oh, my God, how's baby?
And you have to regurgitate that over again. Yeah. Brutal.
That's brutal. Yeah. So I know. I get you.
My condolences for that. I had no idea. What's ironic is that was a big part of, what I did as far as working with babies and having to breathe for them, and also if they were strong enough, getting their family trained on the equipment to take them home, to try to get them acclimated to an apnea monitor and things of that nature. And so for me, I would really be championing trying to get those parents and, caregivers involved, teaching them about the babies, how to handle them and everything. But for me, my heart, when I would lose one, it just stung. It would take, I would take that stuff home with me. I still communicate with some of my patients that were newborns that are now teens, and even though I'm not practicing, I know that was for a greater purpose that I can get into a little bit later. But let's talk about what attracted you to medicine. And if you can, tell us a little bit more about medical safety and the pharmacovigilance.
Sure. So when I was younger, I had 2 chronically ill parents. And so we spent a lot of time in hospitals and things of that nature. My dad has Crohn's disease, and my mama had breast cancer for the first time in her 20s.
Wow.
And so she was a young parent. She had my older sister when she was 15, and she had me when she was 18, about to turn 19. And then my little brother a couple of years later. So 3 little kids going to doctor offices and clinics and hospitals, et cetera. And I was a smart kid and really kind of extroverted, but very introspective. I love to read and good student. And so, I always had like a affinity for science and math. And that kind of really led me to kind of science and math STEM type of activities, got older, and it just made kind of natural sense. I was an empath and, had the aptitude for medicine, and here I am. And
wow.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
no.
So that's how that happened. Yeah. So
what's amazing though, I never knew from learning about you and just getting to kind of know you. This is our first time speaking, but just getting to know a little bit about your background, and here today seeing the semblance, the similarities that we have as far as whys and the hows, because you said Crohn's disease and my grandmother, she had cystic fibrosis. I went to school for business and it just wasn't fulfilling. And so I wanted to learn more about the disease, which is a chronic obstructive pulmonary one from my grandmother, which led me into cardiopulmonary science and
That's a tough life.
Listen,
cystic fibrosis, that is oh my God, those are the saddest.
It was so
talking
hard.
About childhood, yeah, they spend so much time in the hospital. It's just a tough life. So absolutely, her resilience, I'm sure, is just through the roof. I'm sure she taught you so much.
She did.
About being strong.
She did. She passed away, when I was younger, but that really, there wasn't as much known about it as it is now. And so all of the developments and all of the things that were not available to her back then, I wanted to be versed in so that I could know if that were to be passed down to, my mom, because that was Granny, but my mom or aunts or any of my family members. So I've always had a heart for the medical industry and understanding that part, but also in cardiopulmonary science, we had to know about the drugs, the actual drugs, the generic ones, the ones, the contraindications for each thing and how things interact with one another. Because you could take something for one thing, or they could prescribe something to you for a specific thing. But if you have other underlying issues and you're being treated for other things, at the same time, it could diminish or decrease the effects of that medication on your body based on you. It's case by case study. Like what works for you, Contessa, may not necessarily work for me. It's not the same cocktail. It's not, this is what you do when this happens, based on the person, their history, where they came from, how their bodies are wired. God is amazing because he did his thing with all of us, but it's so crazy. It's just some people, this works, and others, this doesn't. And you're trying to worry about the two, but that's why we have case studies
and that's pharmacovigilance. That's actually, you kind of led into it. So that's what we do. So pharmacovigilance doctors actually work for pharmaceutical companies. And what we do is essentially monitor patient safety. We make sure that a medicine that is kind of coming onto the market, we kind of monitor and oversee the clinical trials that occur. Once a drug has been FDA approved and it's gone to market, then we continue to monitor. One of the things that people are fully unaware of is that our goal is not to make, as the clinicians, we don't try to make more money for the pharmaceutical company. Our job is to monitor and make sure that the medication is still safe. And so what does that mean? Say, for instance, someone goes on social media and says, hey, I've been taking medication X, and these are some of the side effects that, I'm having, or this is something that happened as a result of it. That we actually create a case. We reach out to that person, and, because we do searches, we search literature, we search social media. It's amazing. And this is all over the world. Our company is global. And so we are in charge of creating a case. We have to look up the data. And we essentially follow up with, we'll try to follow with the doctors. We'll try to get information. We'll try to see if there's family members who will give us more information. So it's quite profound, because you think that pharmaceutical companies are the bad guy, but I work in a position that is exactly the opposite. My job is to ensure that a medication remains safe, and that if there is a population, for instance, that, because like you said, there are certain populations that we found, maybe this medication is generally safe, but for people who are 65 and older, it doesn't work. If someone has a contraindication because of the disease, there's a higher population of people having side effects. So it's for me, I know I probably nerded out a little bit, but I love it. I actually find it very interesting, and it's quite amazing to be able to talk kind of directly to patients.
Yeah, and it's also quite necessary, because a lot of times you're like, this works, this is how it's going to work, I know the outcome, and then when it doesn't work for you, you're upset. But I think that what you guys do is so needed, and it's so important for patients, so that they have advocates, outside of just listening to the doctor, which is why a lot of times I don't express, like, if we go to the ER, or my child is sick, or my mom or dad, I listen to everything they have to say. Like, even with the health scare of my husband that recently happened in July, when they came in there, they were saying all kinds of stuff, and I listened, but you're also talking about a saddle pulmonary embolism that's covering, the base of his lungs, and occluding his pulmonary artery 50%. Oh, that got me going, and I started to nerd out as well. I was like, oh, okay. So after I enlightened the doctor, I was like, you don't have to, tippy-toe with me. I know exactly what you're talking about. And I said, and furthermore, can you show me the CAT scan? Because I want to see it, because I actually can read it. I need you to, and I encourage patients, ask for your imaging. Ask for a copy of what somebody is reading to you, to make sure that you have it. It's yours, so you can ask for anything. You can ask for your x-ray. You can ask for your CT. You can ask for your MRI. And a lot of times people don't do that. They're just kind of taking, the doctor's word for it. They're just going along, and other times, you're not sure what to ask. And so I caught it the moment I said, I'm an RCP. I'm just not practicing right now. Now the doctors, when they come in with their friends or the nurse, they're like, oh, she's a respiratory therapist, or she's a respiratory care practitioner. It was almost like, she knows what you're talking about, so make sure you give it to them straightforward. And unfortunately, that's just how it goes.
My husband does that. So he instantly is like, yeah, you don't have to talk to me like that. I'm a doctor. But I love it. Like, I remember when I was pregnant, with all my pregnancies, I'll be laying there and the ultrasound tech would be like, that's the leg. I'm like, oh, leg. That's the arm. Oh my God, the arm. I just like being the patient. Like, I just want to lay there and just talk to me and just let me just not have to think. Because it's almost like sometimes when you do that, you'll find that they then start leaving things out. I want you to break it down for me so we can know that you thought through it. Like, don't skip to the end. I want to know, like, what was your linear process to get from point A to point B? Because a lot of times what does happen is that I just make an assumption. And we all do that, right? We know that from just human nature. You'll see something and you'll just absolutely assess based on your prior experience what just happened there. Right. And you didn't actually, like you said, look at the individual nuances, right? You just made a quick assumption. Yeah. And that's sometimes what will happen if you don't see them going kind of step by step. So I want you to work. I want you to go. And then I'll say at the end, once you kind of like, do you understand? Do you need someone to come in the church? No, I got it. Cause I'm actually have several degrees, including a master's in public health, and so yeah.
Yeah, it's like a
So
couple
I
of
agree.
things.
Sometimes you got to do it for the respect, though. You
For
do.
the respect of it all. And
Yeah.
education wise, I just want to admonish people to be inquisitive and to do your own research, you know? And if you have a great relationship with your primary care practitioner, actually ask the questions. If you end up in the ER, if they're telling you you need some type of surgery, because it's crazy. There were two doctors that were definitely at odds about the next steps about what was to happen with my husband when his life was hanging in the balance. And I was like, hold on, we're gonna go with the facts. We're not gonna go with let's if and then. We're gonna go with exactly what's happening. And then there was the underlying issue of diabetes that has to be factored in, a possible bleed out, different things. And girl, we could stay here all day, but I want to talk about you being multifaceted,
Yeah.
multi-dimensional. You've been a flight surgeon. You ride motorcycles.
I
You
love it.
travel all over. Kind of like
Look, I call
me.
myself
Like, do you
all those
feel
things. I call myself a girl's girl. All those things that are completely what people think they don't think about a girl doing. I'm like, actually, it's exactly the
abs?
opposite. I'm a girl's girl. Girls do all of that. You
Girls do
know.
all of that. And do you feel like people often don't know how to receive you when they can't fit you into a box?
1,000%. It's so interesting because I'm a veteran, right? And so I'm, technically a service connected, and I wear this badge of honor and pride. I'm a service connected disabled veteran. What that means is I did have
Wow.
some injuries on active duty, and like they say all the time, some of the injuries you can't see, but instantly because of that, I get different benefits, right? I still get to go to the VA for my care. I still get, veteran discounts. I get, other kind of benefits, and
Absolutely. Come on.
when
And
people
deserve it.
and deserve it because I earned it. But people will say, wait, who was in the military? Was he in the military? It's like, no, he was my plus one. He was my dependent. So I was the one who was active duty.
So
So
they
it's interesting
immediately
because people
assume it's your
don't,
husband.
yeah, they don't
Yeah.
think that women can serve in the military. Like we're not patriots. Like we don't have the skill set. Even when now I don't have to do this anymore because I'm, in my clinic, but a lot of times when I'll be at a hospital or something or a clinic, I will, of course, I'm white coated up, MD everywhere. And I'll
Yeah.
say, hey, I'm Dr. Metcalf, and I'll, do your exam. And then they'll be at the end, when is the doctor coming in? I was like, you know what? Just wait right here. She'll be back. And I tell the medical assistant, they hanging out for a minute. I think they're waiting for some mystical character that's going to show up
That's
because
gonna
I
appear
guess
and
you just let me do everything. I just did a whole rectal exam. We did whatever, and you still waiting for a doctor. But because you couldn't wrap your head around the fact that I introduced myself as a doctor. So
yeah,
there's all
and
those
that also
microaggressions, but I'm used to it. I'm used to
that
it
also
now.
speaks to another layer of, that whole gender thing and
Mhm.
maybe even a little bit of colorism.
Oh, for
Is it
sure.
hard for you to see me as not an assistant to the doctor, but the actual doctor, and I am a woman who happens to be a young woman and who
Yeah.
happens to actually know exactly what I'm doing? I think that it's high time for us to accept the fact that women, we can do it all. We've been
Yeah,
doing it
we
all
can. Yeah,
without
we
the credit
can.
for it. We've been doing it all. And sometimes people put their names on our work and
For
have for
sure.
years. I mean,
Absolutely.
holla at me, Katherine Johnson from, the Hidden Figures movie with NASA and everything. The person that she was collaborating with never wanted to honor her work. But, sir, you wouldn't be here and you wouldn't be doing this if it were not for my participation in it. And I don't know what that is. And we do it, and sometimes inadvertently, you will
Yeah.
take something as your own without tagging the person that actually it belongs to. And God gave each of us brilliant minds. He gave you revelation that he may never give me. He gives me revelation he may never give to others, which is why these conversations are so important for perspective wise. Which brings me to the next point. Like, as you've continued to grow in your successes, has
Hmm.
collaborating with other women become challenging for you? Because, sometimes when you have a lot to you and you're multi-layered, it's kind of
Right.
hard because people love to meet you on the level which how they were introduced to you, or either they like to keep you on the level at which they know you. So it's kind of hard to embrace the parts of you that exist, but they don't know, you know?
Right. I will say for me, it's been very fortuitous that all my friends are stars. I say it all the time. All my friends, I'm the least of my crew. And they make me better, higher, stronger, more amazing. They sharpen me. And the good thing I would say is what you said is absolutely true, but I've tried my best to minimize my crew, right? I keep my core. And there's only a few people who got my back that I listen to, and the rest of them, they're white noise, right?
Yeah.
And so what I found is that some people will absolutely positively feel more comfortable with you being in a lower position, right?
All the time.
Not growing, not exploding, not seeing that we collaborate and 2 times 2 is 16 versus you thinking if I close my hand, I'm not giving nothing out, but you're also not receiving anything.
Ooh.
And it's insane that people don't see that because women they're not competition. They are not competition. And I just can't say it enough. They're not competition. Like, I know that to me, that word, someone's jealous, gets overused because I don't even see it because I don't operate like that. Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's true, but I honestly deselect those people from my life. Whenever I feel that competition chip starts to like play into our relationship, I don't operate well there. So I just have to like,
hard, right?
I got to get out of there. I can't, I have to like Heisman it. Like I have to roll out of that relationship.
I've never understood it because you can bring the very best parts of you. You can bring the very best parts of you, but the parts that aren't so sharp, there's somebody that God has gifted you with in your life that has those, answers and those puzzle pieces that when you add them together, there's an amazing collab right there. And that subscription to jealousy just pisses me off as well. Like, we need to do better because we are so much stronger together than as a solo entity. So how did you come to...
I was going to say, but it comes from childhood trauma, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is, and that's why who you raise your children around and who you allow your children to be raised around is so important because that is family. It happens in families. It happens in with parents and kids. It happens with siblings. It happens with cousins. It happens. So it does happen outside of the immediate family circle, but it also happens there. And it's all about how you like deal with it and foster that because people think it's all about like your girlfriends and stuff, but what's happening in your home, right?
Yeah.
That's why it's so important to not, in my opinion, I don't let everybody come over my house.
Girl,
I don't let
me
everybody
either.
around my kids. I don't let everybody. I can't do it. I can't because I don't want that many people speaking into their life and into their head, and minimizing them and helping them believe that there's a limit to their greatness and their potential and what they should and can't do or what they shall and wouldn't do. And I think you got to be real careful. And sometimes it's the people who carry your blood.
They're the worst
that you
ones.
also have to say and they don't mean no harm. But then it trickles over into their friendships and it trickles over into their relationships. And so it's taught. And that's kind of what I'm saying. And so we got to be careful of what we are teaching because, those little kids grow up.
Yeah, it's so true. Listen, we could stay in that vein all day, but I do want to enlighten our listeners and viewers on how you became to join the cast of Married to Medicine, and did you have any apprehension about that? What made you say yes, and why do you feel it a fit for you?
Yes, so that's quite interesting. So the first year that I was approached, actually, they came to me, and when they did come to me, I'd already known, Toya went to the same church that I went to, and our kids played in the same soccer league, and so I saw Toya around. Simone and I have a really good mutual friend, and so we knew each other peripherally, and so when it came about, I was nervous because what I heard was that was the show that people was fighting on. And so I was nervous because, one thing that people didn't know was I've had for over a decade, a really good government contract job. Right. And so I was scared.
You didn't want to mess that up.
No, I was not
with
messing up my
foolishness.
Right. Well, I just also know that I can, I can be hood, I can be holy, but I can be hood too. Because again, childhood trauma, like this is how we were raised.
Ditto.
And we all got triggers, right? And so I knew for a fact that I did not have the ability to I don't like bullies. I don't like feeling like somebody's trying to suppress me. I don't feel like, I don't like to be, picked on. I'm I'm not going to ever start it, but I'm going to defend myself to the hilt.
Absolutely.
That's who I am. And so I was nervous. And so that first year I actually recommended somebody else, and she got selected. She didn't get she didn't get renewed, but the second year that they came back, I, got selected, and I've been on ever since. Yeah. And I actually have no regrets about that. I think it's been a great opportunity because I was really, before being on TV, pretty conservative. And I said no to anything that was outside the vein of being a doctor and professionalism. And that fun chip had been suppressed. And that creative chip really was something that I had felt like I needed to put to the back burner. So I get to explore those things in the different facets of myself. And I'm having a good time. It's not always fun, but I'm having a good time.
That's amazing to hear. How has becoming a media figure been for you? Like, what have been the blessings and some of the curses of that aspect of being on the show?
Well, the blessing for sure is, I grew up from, like I said, my dad was on drugs, and, he went to prison. My mom and dad were chronically ill. They were young parents. And so there's a lot of stereotypes about what you can become, based on, of course, some data, but there's a lot of beliefs that I'm less than, I can't do this because I didn't have the pedigree, my parents didn't, so I can't. And so I wanted someone to, maybe look at me and say, if she did it, I could do it too.
Absolutely.
And I think that's been something that I've been able to have resonate, that you don't have to, just because you're a mom doesn't mean you can't have personal dreams. Just because you are already in a profession doesn't mean you can't morph or get another degree and switch and, ebb and flow into something else. That's the benefits. And so I've loved that. And the curse, I would say, is, again, I'm pretty, nice, right? I'm a girl's girl. I get along with, I was Miss Congeniality. I was homecoming queen in high school and college. Like, I get along with folks, right? I'm not the one who starts the trouble. However, one thing that I would say is I've found that people are very aggressive with telling you how they feel about you. And they, are even more aggressive about wanting you to do what they want you to do. And it's quite interesting because I don't think I would ever walk up to someone and be like, this is what you should do with your life, or this is the decision that you should make. And I'm just like, I wouldn't do that to my sister. I wouldn't do that to my, my grandmother, my mom, anybody. So it's so interesting that people feel like liberated to, like, almost, it's a boundary thing for me.
Yeah.
And just because I'm sharing something with you doesn't mean that I'm also opening the door for you to, like, be my new life coach.
Right. So and it's so crazy because it's like, unless I invite you, you into that part of my intimate space, don't take the liberties that I didn't ask you for, you know. And sometimes that gets a little bit challenging in this space because, like, I kicked off this season with a very candid conversation between my husband and myself. And I understand that, how people can relate, what they would or would not do when you're in the public eye. And it kind of adds a lot of tension to already challenging circumstances, say, for instance, if it does become public. And so what has it required for you to choose your vows in the face of public opinions and their interjections and their what you should, woulda, couldas?
Well, I will say this. Just first to you, thank you guys for sharing, but you don't owe us anything. You don't owe anybody any explanations for any decisions that you choose to make or don't make. And just because someone sees something does not mean that they have the right, the audacity, or the entitlement to an explanation from anybody. So thank you for that, but you didn't owe us anything.
Yeah,
so
I didn't feel like we owed. I think it was just our time to say it because people have had their fun and whatever they wanted to do. They've monetized your pain and all of the stuff, and half of it, well, actually, like 80% of it is salacious and made up. It's just crazy to me that people enjoy, and there's a thirst and like, what's the tea? Oh, let me hurry up so I can see. And I'm in the comments, and no knock to people who want to do that with their life, but I'm on to other things. But I know that it is challenging. It's challenging for all of us who happen to be in this space and we didn't choose it that way. It just happened to
for sure.
happen.
Well, I was going to say, I said that to answer your question. So one of the quite liberating experiences for me it was the saddest time of my life, but it was also liberating. I lost my mom in 2010. And so I feel like, honestly, she was the last person I ever had to explain any of my actions to. So at this point, if you see me do something or you have, you didn't make me, so you can't break me. So I don't have that. I don't have so even though people are really aggressive and they'll spend time sending me messages and all these opinions, I don't feel it. You didn't invest into my development. You weren't here for me growing up. I was hungry. You didn't feed me. I was thirsty. You didn't give me water. And so I thank you for your opinion, your advice. Thank you for your personal, if you was with this person that you don't know, this is what you would do because you know all the answers, even though you've only known us for maybe 13, 14 minutes, every other 14 weeks out of the year.
Yeah.
Thank you. But I don't owe anybody anything. I just feel like that's such a blessing. I love the Bible. And one of the things about the Bible is it's quite salacious, right? There's so many stories. Ooh. There's so many, the best ones are about imperfection, right?
And it's to grow you and to show you that what you're experiencing is real back there.
No, but no one's perfect. And it's so interesting that people almost forget that. Like they want to start stoning you, and in their own lives, they couldn't tolerate that kind of scrutiny because the honesty of it all, if we all are just bare down to nothingness, we're all imperfect creatures. And so to determine that this imperfection is worse than that one, I don't remember having the right to do that. I wasn't born with that gavel of judgment. Yeah. So I am happy to be here. I'm happy to share my experiences and my story, but I also know that I'm living in grace. And the last thing I'm going to do is be judging, kind of sit around in judgment on everybody else's decisions, because what I don't want anyone to do is navigate this world alone. Right.
You're right.
And so I don't know what is the reason that people make their decisions, but I just hope and pray that they're happy. And that's all. That's where I end.
Listen, if you like it, I love it. That's the thing. And it's not for me unless you have specifically called me or specifically DM'd me to interject myself because you want to know my opinion or you want to know how I handle something in a way that it pertains to your life. Then that's cool. This has been a beautiful, beautiful conversation. So needed, so necessary. I wish we had more time. But as we wrap, I know you're getting ready for your reunion and everything. What is next for Dr. Contessa? Not Contessa. What is next for Dr. Contessa, my sis? What's up? What's next for you?
Yeah, so several things. So number one, of course, we're growing the clinic. We are opening up another location. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yes.
I know. I actually created, when I did the fitness competition, it was really, and I created this kind of alter ego for me, calling it the hot dog. And the reason I did that is because again, there's all these beliefs about what a mother can be and what a doctor can be.
And what you should look like.
And what you should look like and what you can and can't wear. And I really want to create this movement where mommies and women who are professional or choose to do whatever you want to do can be free. Yeah. But I also it's all about wellness, right? It's all about your personal wellness inside of here. So I'm working on this wellness brand, and we're going to have all kind of stuff. We're going to have women's conferences and men's conferences and couples conferences. And we're going to start doing, we're working on finding a facility that is essentially going to be almost like the wellness retreats that you go to out in Arizona. And we want to build one right here so you can have your little staycation and come and revive right here in Atlanta, Georgia. So that's the next.
When you get that up and running, you need to call me. I'm supporting. I can't wait.
You guys will be our guest.
Talk about it. Share it around. I'm excited. But thank you so much for joining me on Unfiltered Season 2 this year. Thank you so much for your insight. It's been beautiful talking to you, and we can't wait to connect again. Let's stay in touch.
Absolutely.
And I know you probably have to see patients, so I'm going to let you go, girl. And we'll talk soon. God bless.
Thank you.
All right, and now it's time for one of my favorite parts of the show, my Av's Advice segment, Dear Av, where I get the opportunity to respond to one of our viewers who has a situation that they want me to talk about and give my advice on. And today, my writer has entitled her Dear Av as My Family is the Worst. I bet all of y'all are like, I can relate before you even finish talking, but Here's what she said. Okay, so Dear Av, I'm at my wit's end with my family. I've always held the perspective that family should be your refuge, a constant source of belonging, acceptance, and support. But unfortunately, that has never been my case. I am the youngest child and have always been the one to point out the dysfunction, but for the sake of wanting to figure out ways to bring us closer, to no avail. Recently, my already drained relationship with my sister has gotten worse. She believed that I disrespected her when what I really did was just say no to her. She then stopped speaking to me and ignored me for days. She painted me negatively in the eyes of the rest of the family as if she's the victim. When I set boundaries, I'm made to feel like I'm wrong and the rest of the family gets on my case. Meanwhile, it has never stopped me from longing for my family. I feel alone in the world, and although I have good friends, I struggle with feeling out of place going to them for things I feel like I should be able to go to my family for. How can I repair my relationship with my family, or do I need to learn to live without them? Woo, child. All right, so hear me and hear me very well. When I first read this story for you, I saw myself all in it. I, too, have been extremely misunderstood by family on a number of occasions. And I think we should never be made to feel bad about setting boundaries for ourselves. It doesn't matter if it's your blood relatives, if it's your work relationships, if it's your friendships, your romantic relationships, as well as acquaintances. You have to have some type of boundary limitation, some type of hard stop for your mental capacity. And when people misunderstand you, there are some that are committed to misunderstanding you, no matter how much you try to engage them, you try to help them, you try to give them perspective and why you feel the way you feel. They are going to misunderstand you. So number one, you have to make peace with being misunderstood. It's a part of life. And it also kind of informs you that, and reminds us that no one person thinks the same, feels the same, or shares the same perspectives. I honestly feel that people take advantage of the love that they know we have for them. And I want to encourage you to distribute the love that you have for others in a way that allows you to want to keep loving and not want to change your natural way of wiring, which is to retreat and to pull back. Anything that makes you want to pull back from who you actually are, you need to learn how to live without. I know that sounds pretty harsh because it's family, but sometimes family can be some of the most crucial, judgmental, and overbearing relationships that we have. We can learn to love and place in the correct area of your life. So if people want to be committed to misunderstanding you, find peace within yourself to know that you gave of your best, that you did your best, and deal with people how you need to deal with them in order to keep your mind at peace and to keep your body at peace. We will inflame triggers and things that have been lying dormant, things that you've worked on yourself for, your own mental, your own boundaries and limitations that you've set for yourself to be able to function in a way that is beneficial for the people who you see and who you engage with daily. And sometimes people will drain you to the point you feel like you're always questioning yourself. How do I say this without them feeling X, Y, and Z? You're going to be misunderstood. Get that in your spirit. You're going to be, taken wrong most times in your life. If people get it, great. But the reality is that most of the time we're misunderstood. And we really have to take moments to know that we've given the best of ourselves without changing. Sometimes change is necessary. And you have to know how to deal with people where they are. Sometimes where they are is not where you are. And that's okay. Sometimes we won't be at the same destination mentally, emotionally, spiritually, or in our maturity. But wherever we are and wherever you find that loved one, be okay with them there, deal with them there, and keep your peace while you're doing it. And I hope that helps you. When people start rallying the rest of the family and everybody's, coming at you, it makes you question you. Take time, do some deep introspection, do some looking inside. If you still feel the way you feel, stay with it. Hold your guard and deliver it in love, and people can take it or leave it. And I want to encourage you to do that today, because that's how you're going to keep your peace. You can use your friends and use them as, listening ears and for advice, but you really want a great relationship with your family. Set boundaries and limitations for yourself, because people will start disrespecting you more when you keep moving the boundary, when you keep moving the line of demarcation for your life and for your mental peace. So if that answers your question, I hope that it does. I hope you feel better. When people want to take the victim mentality, allow them to, let them live in that themselves, but you stay firm in what you believe. You pray for them, you move on. You want to repair your relationship with family. There's nothing greater than saying, I respect what you're saying, but I need you to hear me. I've heard you. And if we have to just agree to disagree, let's just leave it at that, and let's just love from here. If you would like Av's advice, and if there's something that you want to write into the show about, if there's something you want me to talk about, discuss, you have a topic on your heart, something that you're about to step into, a new season, please email me at Unfiltered. It's AVE, unfiltered, at AventerGrayCo, don't leave off the co.com. And we will read your story, and hopefully it will get chosen for me to highlight on Av Unfiltered during my Av's Advice segment, Dear Av. And also, I just want to tell you to stay connected with Av Unfiltered. We go deep, we have authentic conversations, and I am so excited for today's episode. Make sure you like and share, and you subscribe to my YouTube channel at Aventer Gray Co. on YouTube. You can find this audio on all podcast outlets, and also live every other Thursday. That's every other Thursday. It goes live at 4:08. Favorite numbers are 4 and 8 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you do that, like, share, and follow. And make sure you write in for my advice. Go grab you some Artist Me merch and stay connected. God bless. I love you. Can't wait to see you next time for episode 4 of Av Unfiltered Season 2.